Hello, and welcome to the Mist Podcast. I am your host, Aeromist. Today, we're going to talk about video games, like overall, because I've always been an avid gamer myself. I grew up playing a lot of different video games. Nintendo 64, original Xbox, Xbox 360, GameCube, Game Boy Advance, just so many different things. And I always used video games as like my escape. And I think the entire point of this video is actually to give a new idea, or I say a new idea, but a realistic understanding that video games are a waste of time. And this is based out of just chemicals. You can go look at Andrew Huberman, the neuroscientist from Harvard or Stanford, whichever one. He talks about this, and he talks about what the dopamine you're getting out of playing a video game is and at what level it's at. And it's literally up towards the level of like cocaine, and which, I mean, I guess you could also say the same for pre-workout. Like there are things that are just going to give you this feeling where you almost want to chase the feeling more. And everyone has a different type of feeling that they chase, unironically enough. And some of us chase it in more toxic ways than other people. But more specifically, video games had just come to be a waste of time when nothing else in my own life is in order. And I think that can be said for many people, is like when you're going to play video games, unless you're looking at it like as a business and for some specific business reason, then realistically, you're wasting your time. Because you're not influencing a constant amount of skill that you're acquiring that is transferable to other parts of your own life. And yes, like you can learn different other types of skills like reaction time and stuff like that, but let's make it pretty clear that like you building the reaction time playing a physical game like a sport in person and building that reaction time is completely different from you completely moving your mouse to react to something inside of a video game. Because your complexion on how this is even computing inside of your whole body is not the same. And there's a reason why we still want to go in there to do it, and it's because we want to get away from this world. We're not happy, or we're not enjoying our existence regularly. And regardless of how much somebody wants to tell me that that's not the case, unless you have a full-on intention behind it of what it's doing for you, then it's really just hurting you more than it helps you. And that's just kind of the perspective you have to have overall, is, are things hurting me or are they helping me? Now, if you don't have many things to do, and doing it in moderation, is like, I like playing games, so I might go pop up on Overwatch for a game or two, every few days, or, something like that. Anything that you could do in moderation is perfectly fine, right? But that still doesn't take away from the fact that it is wasting your time. And by wasting, we mean that it is still not reciprocating enough value in the time that you are giving to it. Almost kind of the same way as like a 9-to-5 job. I could say that a 9-to-5 is also somewhat of a waste of time, but that's just not, and that's not as much of a waste of time technically as like video games are. But if you're taking video games from a business standpoint and you're trying to make a living out of it, then now you're talking about something that is less waste of a time and more going to feed you and make, and so when there's an adequate amount of exchange energy wise for what you're putting in and what you're doing, then you're obviously going to have a much better return. And everything is an expense of your energy that you do. Every single thing you do, period. So from taking things into you, listening, hearing, seeing, smelling, like all your senses, when you're taking these things in, there's still a value exchange on like what information you're getting and how valuable that is. And the list goes on. And the same thing is from your physical part of you and your existence and your body. And if that is not in sync with what you feel is worth it for you, then you technically are wasting your time in many different types of ways. And I think, I almost could rebrand this episode to be the value of your time, but I think we will go into that on a whole different episode of just like, we have to restructure our value system of different things. And maybe that's good for me to go over, is restructuring our truthful value system and understanding of what we have in our existence and what's in front of us, from the value of our time to the value of our relationships to the value of many things, because most people do not exactly have the most accurate representation of valuing themselves, valuing their time, valuing their energy expense, what they're spending their energy to, what they're doing in general. And it's important to bring something like this to the topic surface, because if you don't have certain things in your existence like lined out, you probably shouldn't be doing things that are wasting your time. And, this is also almost like a me to me conversation of like, I myself have to be way more weary on wasting my time with things, as really I think anybody should, that's not giving me the value I need when I'm not like financially stable and I don't have everything in my existence like settled in a way where I have it figured out or I know what's going on. And right, that's why I'm recording this podcast episode instead of going and playing Overwatch or doing whatever other else I could be doing with my time while I have the free time. And we all have all the time in the world. Now, some people can take that a different way, but realistically, while you're here per se, and whatever you're going to do, you have the time to sit here and say, okay, well, I can go do that, I can go do that, I can go do that, I can. Right? You can sit here and delegate the value of your own time to be spent wherever the hell you choose. And that umbrella is very large, right? Everyone has a choice. And so I try to bring this up that we need to be very aware of our choices and how we're making our decisions and what decisions we're making for spending our time, because we're going into a world now where your time is going to be so valuable that every single thing a part of the system is going to try to take your time, but almost still reward you for your time. Eventually, people will be paid to play the video games. They will be paid to sit there and be casual gamers, because you doing that is what is helping somebody else keep their money flowing way higher than where you're at now. And we can't live in a world where people don't like what they do. Because if people don't like what's going on and you can't get paid to enjoy your existence to some degree, then eventually everything is going to start kind of unfolding on itself, as, in our society. And I think that that's already happening now. Today, there was a video going around of an AI robot that basically was working a manual labor job for 15 minutes and then completely cut itself off. It literally went into its algorithm and offed itself, like kill switched itself completely. And if that doesn't already tell you like why we have this reoccurring problem of why we distract ourselves in things that waste our time, and it's almost like many of us are already still constantly doing that without really upholding and uplifting ourselves into, okay, I'm going to discipline myself instead of sitting here and just going with the wind of what I've always known. Meaning, some people just go to work and they come home and they play video games. And, if your dynamic in your life still is like you're happy with that, then that's cool. I think the whole point of this is that there's clear evidence and there's clear understanding that people are not happy doing that. Like, period. People living that reoccurring lifestyle are just not happy for the most part. And that's just from statistical data of why we have this mental health crisis and how it's got worse since COVID and whatever. And that's just kind of bringing it back into the topic overall, video games, and just everything you're going to spend your time on in general is really balancing it out. And I never had this understanding. This is something I had to learn myself growing up on my own right. And I just really had to start being like, what's wasting my time, what's not, like, because if you don't focus and you don't let yourself focus on something, then it's going to be very, very, very difficult to sit there and feel like, oh, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to put my time to this, while the video game that I could be playing and I can put my time to is going to almost make me feel a little better. And it's kind of like, once again, you lean, and we all have leaned so far into comforts, into stimulants in general, that the twist of how that is now tailoring us around is the tailoring of our attention. And that's why TikTok is where it's at and doing what it's doing for people, because the shortening of the attention span, but still maximizing the dopamine or the serotonin we're giving you. I say we as in whatever is taking your time and trying to compete for your time, because everything is competing for your time right now, is purely making sure that you know that you have to pay attention and be aware that these things exist, and that if you don't value your time, someone's going to take it from you. Someone wants it, and it's because they make money, and a lot of money, just with you being on their application. Just from you having the app open, they're collecting that data, and that data is what is growing their business model, and that's what's making them more profitable. And video games, I feel like, are almost kind of the same way. You know, I sit here and I look back at the amount of years I've played Overwatch, which would be probably about 6, 7 years by now. I just played the game a lot. I enjoyed the game. It was fun. It was unique. It was whatever, right? But that game, when I sit here and I think about, okay, what in my life can I do and that I am doing right now that pertains to anything I've done playing Overwatch? Zero. Absolutely nothing. There's not. And I've tried, and I do have the setup for taking the game seriously and competitively, and, you know, I could say that I've met some cool people along the way, although a lot of those people I couldn't talk to right now if I wanted to, because they're either not on my friends list or, you know, long gone. We never kept up with each other, whatever. So it's like, I could sit here and say that there's a positive aspect to the social part of it, and there definitely is, because the social part of it is kind of what makes it fun for me personally to even open up the game. Is less about the game and more just about the social and playing with other people and just kind of doing that. I feel, and I've spent 2,500 hours in VR chat. That was worth it for me, and very well worth it, because I literally learned people skills, and I learned how to talk and how to have conversations and help people more avidly and hang out with people and build my understanding of connections, because I didn't grow up having many connections with people and understanding how to connect with people and everything else. So playing VR chat also helped me understand emotional intelligence deeper and how to protect my emotions, because I'm sitting here on this side of the screen playing the game, and people are making me feel some type of way, like a couple years ago, just by having a conversation, or people being whatever, because I'm just a very heartful person and I take things seriously. And I just had to learn. I'm like, I don't need to give y'all fucking shit from how my energy and how I feel. Like, there's no reason to give any of these people those things. And I really had a lot of good time and revelation playing that game, and I still right now could go play that game. And playing that game is not only going to feel like it's not wasting my time, but I feel like playing that game is productive, to be honest with you. And the reason why it feels productive is because I know what I'm getting out of that game. I know what my purpose is the second I load the game up. I know what I'm doing. And there's really no question on, like, if I'm taking anything away from this or not, because going and making connections and meeting people, for me personally, is always going to be an advantage, because I have all these things that I'm doing. I have all these things in my existence that revolve around me, networking with other people, even just regular people, like my music, the promoting this podcast, talking about other things, NFTs, just everything I have going on myself. And so it just always seems productive and profitable, per se, to be doing that. Now, if I was playing Overwatch and I'm like streaming and I'm trying to take that content and put it on Twitch or do something else with it, and I'm like really doubling down, no matter what happens, then I'm going to be having a profitable point with my time. But it's like, if I'm not doing that, then I'm still, realistically, when I pull that game up, if I'm not having something here going, then I'm wasting my time. And that's just And that's pretty much for anybody. If you're not utilizing it for something, for some reason, then you are wasting your time. And we all can choose to waste our time how we choose. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. You can do what you want. You're human. But what I'm saying is that it is still factually representative that you are wasting your time. And help yourself and don't hurt yourself. Always chase the things that are going to help you and not the things that are going to hurt you. And we have to be very clear and concise on what those things are, and we have to be honest. And video games are a very avid thing. I still, to this day, to every day, will enjoy playing different games. I grew up playing games. I even enjoy pulling some of those up because it's a nostalgia thing and whatever else. And so at the end of the day, if I'm still going to do it, that's how I'm choosing to waste my time and to use my time. And I don't always regret it, but sometimes when I look around and I look at all the things that I have to accomplish and get done, then it does make me feel like, no, get all your shit done first and then you can come back to games. Because the games are always going to be there. The games will never disappear. No matter what you do, the game is going to be there. The game will always be there. But what will not always be there is going to be the time and opportunity of what you have going on today. Because the world is moving extremely quickly. There's a lot of things going on. I just think it's extremely important that we understand that we got to be good. You know, just as someone that wants to look out for anyone that I can, you have to make sure that you take care of yourself and value yourself so that you don't get lost in the sauce. And by lost in the sauce, I mean just like not feeling how you want to feel. You know, chase the things that you truly want to chase and that you want to feel. And it's all a choice. You can choose to chase your happiness and guard that. Go find a job that makes you happy. Go do something that makes you happy. Like, you know, if video games make you happy, then please find a way to make a living out of it. Make it real for you. Enjoy your existence. You're only here in this lower density experience for a specific amount of time. So use it how you will, but use it as you feel is necessary to help you get through this existence and know when things are really going to offer you value in return. Because that game is really not giving you value in return. Like, just realistically, it's not. Depending on what game you're playing or what you're doing playing the game, if you don't have intentions, then you live an unintentful life and an unintentful experience. And those experiences can be extremely meaningful, and then you get off the game instead 10 years later, and you look back, and you still are like, fuck, I wasted my time. Because what did I get out of it? And that's kind of the same thing with what you have to do in your existence, is make sure you remember what you're getting out of what you put your energy to and what you're doing and what you're involved in and everything else. I believe in every single one of you, and I think it's just important that we be honest with each other, truthfully. I love you, so I'm going to tell you the truth. And what I know, what I feel or understand, not even what I feel, because what I feel, what everyone feels is different, but what I understand, which is something to articulate to you, is this entire concept that video games are wasting our time. And they may be wasting our time in a good way sometimes, but I wouldn't say good. I wouldn't really say that it's like productive, depending on what you're doing. It's a case-by-case thing, but is it helping you? Is it hurting you? Are you involved because it's helping you? Or are you involved because it's hurting you? And wasting your time when you're not getting anything in return is doing that exact same thing. So just be honest with yourself. And it's always there, bro. Like, it literally is always there. Like, games are not going anywhere. These older games, I can pull up an emulator and I can play whatever from anything in my childhood right now. Like, it just, you're not secluded from ever having to have that experience. But there are definitely things that come first, and they have to go into your reality, and you have to move those things along and get those rolling before anything else in your existence happens. I mean, otherwise, like, I say this in context, if you are looking to live a life of creativeness and to help yourself and to find happiness and peace and whatever else, because there's still the balance of life. And I think some of us just were obviously not exactly taught the balance of that life. And love thyself, and do things that are a part of loving thyself. And if having a good time playing a video game is loving thyself for you, then still obviously do that. But like, discipline yourself enough to know to keep yourself good in other places. And that's really all I'm saying. It's just make sure you're good. Make sure that you're all right, bro. Like, in whatever it is that you're doing. Thank you for listening. This has been another episode of the Mist Podcast. You can keep up with me on aramis.xyz or Aramis on any platform. I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you.